my dear friends. Today we have Ms.Roli Jindal, Marketing Excellence Leader of DuPont, and along with her we also have Mr. Prakash Mishra. He is Head Operations of National Healthcare. So on behalf of all of you and the faculty and staff of the institution, I extend a very warm welcome to you people, ma'am. And these are my students of management program. Friends, you know that management program has been an unchallenged brand. Still it is unchallenged, and that's why still it is one of the most sought after program throughout the world, because still this program has been throwing greener pastures to all the persons on the globe. So this is the significance of the program, and as I have been telling you time and again, that your academic traffic is expected to be something different from the conventional courses. Here we have to depend upon plural cognitive ideas, and they are possible by involving persons of name and fame like Ms.Roli Jindal. So today, very fortunately, she is among us to have a lively interaction with you, to share some of her ideas. Madam, this institution has been taking all possible efforts to sustain the 4 important pillars of higher education. We are taking all sorts of pain in giving a better shape, a promising shape to our academic and intellectual activities, curricular activities, social outreach programs, and civic engagements as well. What brief idea I could draw after having a talk to you, that your point of interest is also related to the social outreach. So they are the young minds. You can, of course, make a better awakening among them so that a better compatibility in their movement would be possible, what is required at the corporate and social level. I once again extend a very warm welcome to you, and I hope that interaction will be highly meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Very good afternoon to our respected director, sir, our distinguished speaker, Ms.Roli Jindal, my senior faculty members, and my dear buddy managers. See, today we have assembled over here to get a glimpse of the corporate cultures and the happenings which are prevailing across the globe. And before proceeding, I would like to request dignitaries to kindly grace the occasion, grace the dice with their presence. Sir. Thank you, sir. Before we proceed, I would request Alok sir to kindly felicitate Madam Roli Jindal with a floral bouquet.
Before offering this to ma'am, especially I would like to say because she happens to be my senior in my school.
Thank you, sir. Before we proceed, I will take the opportunity to introduce Ms.Roli Jindal to you all. She is a marketing expert with a career track record of commercialization of new products. Her new product launch experience includes the launch of Dabur's food business, launch of value-added mobile service for the first time in India with the Times Internet, and the launch of sustainable products for the construction industries at DuPont, USA. She is having a rich experience of understanding consumer insights, buying behavior, command over research, advertising, and media processes. She has also participated in various panel discussions on television shows, spoken at prominent industry forums. She was also invited to speak at workshop by Jerry CIDC CII's Indian Green Building Council. I think words are not enough to describe her personality. So I would request Madam Jindal to kindly provide her inputs, her experiences of the corporate exposure to our budding managers. Ma'am, please.
Thank you. So I tried to wear heels this morning because I thought I might be standing behind this and I hope that you can all see me. Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Sir, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk to your bright young students, and I'm so impressed to see that you all come to class so smartly dressed. You know, when I was a student like you, more than 20 years ago in Ahmedabad, we used to go to class in tattered jeans and bathroom slippers. Yes, that's true. And then some of us sort of made a rule and we said, look, we must stop wearing shorts to class. And I'm really impressed to see how smartly all of you are dressed. So great, thank you for that. Thank you. You know, being smartly dressed also shows a certain commitment and a certain professionalism. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that when I talk to you all later, as I go through my talk. But you've given me a good talking point. Also wanted to thank Professor Singh. You know, he and I spoke a little bit before, a couple of days before, and I wanted to understand from him what it is that you all are interested in hearing from me. So thank you for your guidance, sir, and I hope that I will live up to your expectations. Okay, so Professor Singh said that I should tell you a little bit about the company that I work for, which is called DuPont. Have you all heard about DuPont?
Yes.
Some of you have and some of you haven't. Right? Okay, DuPont is one of the oldest American companies. In fact, it is one of the oldest companies in the world that continue to be in business. So it's more than 200 years old. It's about 210 years old to be precise. This is a company that's better known as the inventor of nylon. Have you all heard of a material called nylon?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So nylon is a kind of synthetic fiber. And this was invented about 100 years ago by DuPont. And DuPont's gone on to invent many materials that define the world today. It's gone on to invent a material called Teflon. How many of you have heard of Teflon? What is it? What is it? That's correct. That's correct. Teflon is a non-stick coating. How many of you have heard of something called Kevlar? You have?
Yes.
What is it?
Ma'am, it is used in bullet.
That's correct. That's excellent. Kevlar is a very strong fiber, but it's also very light. So it can be woven into a bulletproof vest, which is its most famous use. The most famous use of Kevlar is bulletproof vest, but fact of the matter is that it's also used to reinforce bridges, for example. It's used in aircraft manufacturing, so it has many different uses because, as you know, aeroplanes need to get lighter and lighter, right? And so you can't keep using so much of steel. So they use Kevlar, which is much more light, but much more strong. It's stronger than steel, 5 times stronger than steel. So yes, so I spoke to you about nylon and about Teflon and about Kevlar. And DuPont also makes safe pesticides. So we make pesticides which are extremely specialized in the sense that if you apply those pesticides to a field, then it will not kill good animals. It will not kill frogs, or it will not kill pests that are not doing any harm to the environment. It will attack specifically those pests. For example, you're all in Banaras and you're familiar with the sugarcane agriculture. So the biggest problem in sugarcane agriculture is a pest called stem borer. Have you all heard of stem borer? No, you're all city kids, huh? Okay, so in agriculture, you know, the sugarcane crop is blighted by a particular insect called stem borer, and one of our pesticides will just go and directly prevent the stem borer from spreading. But it doesn't do any other harm to anything else, including to the farmer. So it's extremely safe pesticide. So that's what we specialize in. We also make seeds for agriculture. So if some of you have heard of Pioneer, it's a seed company, it's a DuPont company. And now we also have a large business making enzymes. So we're getting into biotechnology in a very big way, and the enzymes that we make are used to convert ethanol, you know, to convert what do you say, natural ethanol into biofuel, right? So we're a very diversified company, a very large manufacturing company, more than 200 years old. We operate in more than 75 countries around the world. A very famous company. A lot of the management concepts that we've studied in our time and that you're studying in your time were invented by DuPont. Organic chemistry was practically invented by DuPont. You know, all the original books on organic chemistry were written by DuPont scientists. So these are just interesting stories that we like to tell. For example, we had a hand in the Green Revolution. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the name of Norman Borlaug. So you guys should go and Google. And, you know, so some of the scientists who were associated with the Green Revolution were actually part of the Pioneer Seed Company. Okay, so that's a little bit about the DuPont Corporation and what is it that I now do for DuPont. So I've been with DuPont in various roles. I have run businesses for DuPont, and I have run special projects for DuPont. And now I am in a role where I'm required to create and develop and spread and implement best practices in a particular area. And the area that I work in is the area of commercialization. So I have global responsibility for that. And what is the meaning of commercialization? Very soon all of you will start working, and when you do that in your respective companies, you will discover that innovation is a very big buzzword. You guys are hearing about innovation?
Yes, sir.
Do you have some courses or chapters or classes? And you do, right? Yeah. So the work that I do is to take an idea, that's an idea in somebody's head or basically an idea on a sheet of paper, and then drive that through an extremely complex organization till the time it becomes a real product that's generating revenues. So that's the whole process of commercialization, which is to take an idea and bring it to revenue. You'll understand, or should I explain a little bit more? You understand, okay. So, why is it so tricky, particularly in a company like DuPont, is because the kind of materials that we deal with, or the kind of products that we have, require manufacturing processes that are extremely hazardous. I'll give you an example. You know, that young man over there mentioned Kevlar, and I'm so impressed that he knows about it. The manufacturing process of Kevlar involves pulling the fiber through a solution that is 95% concentrated sulfuric acid. Can you imagine what that means? There is another plant of DuPont that I have visited where you've all heard of spinning mills. So we spin fiber as well, but that's a process called flash spinning where it's a highly pressurized environment through which we do flash spinning, and the gas that's used for pressurization is pentane. You can imagine what a tiny spark will do to that plant. And these are plants of immense scale. You know, we build global scale plants. So Kevlar has like 2 plants in the whole world. So these are plants of immense scale. And you can imagine that if something went wrong, you guys were probably not born at the time that Bhopal happened, but I'm sure you've read about it. You have, right? And commercializing new offerings in a company like DuPont isn't the easiest, because the kind of products that we make, we have to be extremely cognizant of a concept called stewardship. Are you all familiar? I think not. Okay. The concept of stewardship means that as manufacturers and sellers of a product, we are responsible for the use and the misuse of the product that we have sold from the beginning to the time that product has landed in a landfill or has been recycled. Right? So we cannot wash off our hands saying, I sold you this crop protection chemical, which we call pesticides. I sold this to you. I don't care if it's causing cancer. We don't do that. Right? So typically, a new crop protection chemical takes 20 years of research. 20 years of research before it can be launched. Because it takes that much time to verify whether there are any adverse effects on humans, on animals, on the environment. And this is the concept of stewardship, and it takes a lot of time, and particularly when you're dealing with materials of the kind that we deal with. Okay? Having said that, even if you're not dealing with hazardous materials, innovation remains an extremely complex activity. Extremely complex for the reasons that I'm going to talk about a little bit later. So that is a brief talk about what I do at DuPont. Let me also share with you a brief career history, though you did cover that quite well. Did you get that from LinkedIn? Yes, okay. I thought so. So you guys have heard about my career history a little bit. I was a student just like you in Varanasi. I left the city when I was 16 years old. We completed class 12. And then I went to Delhi. I studied at the Lady Shri Ram College there. And then I went to Ahmedabad to the Indian Institute of Management. And then I worked very briefly in Bangalore and Hyderabad. And after that, I've lived now in Delhi for about 17 or 18 years. But through my different roles, I've had the opportunity to work in various assignments, including Asia-Pacific assignments and global assignments, which has given me the opportunity to work in very diverse markets. Villages in Vietnam and shrimp farms in Thailand, and you should go and see the kitchen makers in Tokyo, and our offices in Geneva and in the US. So I've had the opportunity to work in very, very diverse markets. But I've been based in Delhi. I live there with my husband and my daughter. And the other thing that you should know at this point is that apart from working in DuPont, one of my interests has been to write. So I write a blog, and I do that very erratically. I don't write on a regular basis, but I write sometimes when I get angry about something, or sometimes when I like something. I write in my blog, and I also write about my travels in my blog. And some time back, I started to write an article, a column in Hindustan Times about Banaras, the city. So some of my friends encouraged me and said, why don't you publish this in a book? Why don't you compile these articles and publish it into a book? And then the publisher said, look, we want more matter. So then I had to write almost twice as much more matter. And then it all got compiled and it became a book. So one of the reasons I'm here is to talk to young people such as you and get a sense of what you think about your city, because I don't think any other city in India is as much in the news today as Banaras. The kind of media airtime that the city is getting is unprecedented. So I also wanted to understand, is it just me who thinks that Banaras is such a great place, or what about the young people who are living here? What do you think about the city? So this was my opportunity to do that. Okay, so with that long-winded introduction, I want to start the core part of my talk, which Dr. Singh said should focus a little bit around my learnings as a working professional, as somebody who's working in the corporate world. What are some of the experiences that I'd like to share with all of you? So before I do that, let me take a pause and see if any of you wants to ask a question about what I've said so far, because then you're going to forget this part. So let me pause and take questions at this stage. You're all looking at each other, waiting for somebody else to raise their hands. Okay, if you have a question, put your hand up. Put your hand up if you have a question so I can see. No? Yes?
How can we reach the product which DuPont offers?
How can you?
Reach the products, or how can we get the products which DuPont offers?
How can you get? Meaning you want to buy? What do you want to buy?
seeds or
Seeds.
some fertilizer?
Oh, there are shops that sell seeds and fertilizers. So you can buy those products in a seed shop or in a fertilizer shop.
DuPont having some specific place or of shops or at every place?
Okay, so you know the way the value chain works is that in villages and in markets where farmers come to make their agricultural purchases, there are shops which sell seeds and fertilizers, and our products are available in those shops. Okay. Let me understand your question a little better. I think what you're really asking is, I haven't really seen DuPont too much.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're asking, right? Yes, that's a good question. It's true that DuPont is not, in many of our businesses, we are not a consumer company. We are a manufacturing company and we sell to other manufacturers who use our products to then make another product, which is then bought by another manufacturer who uses it to make another product, which is then bought by customers. Let me give you an example. How many of you brush your teeth in the morning? So every toothbrush has bristles, and those bristles are made by DuPont. So every toothbrush in the morning that's going into your mouth, yes, yes, okay? So you all eat Lay's chips, right? So the packing of the Lay's chips, that packet, the plastic is not like one sheet of plastic. It has many layers of things that are laminated together, so it's called laminates. I don't know if any of you have studied chemistry here. Is there any chemistry student here? You are. Okay, which is why you probably know more about DuPont than others. Good. So the resin that is used to bind different layers of metal and plastic together, those resins are made by DuPont. You all know Tetra Pak? Tetra Pak is similarly many different layers of paper and plastic bonded together. And the resins that are used to bond them are DuPont resins, right? So I hope you understand now that, for example, the white paint, you know, I was very impressed with your campus, and it's a white building. So all the paint that you see that's white, what makes paint white? Do you know? Louder? No, that's okay, go. Peas. What's peas?
It reflects all colors of light.
So what is it? What is that opaque material that makes paint white? Do you know, young man?
It is basically chemical composition of different chemicals.
It's a mineral called titanium dioxide. Have you all heard about titanium dioxide? Titanium dioxide is white powder. Anything that you see that's man-made and white has titanium dioxide in it. That's why it's white. This has titanium dioxide in it. And this has titanium dioxide in it. And this has titanium dioxide in it. Paper, white paper, is white because it has titanium dioxide in it. So anything that's white and man-made has titanium dioxide in it. And we're the world's largest manufacturers of titanium dioxide. So companies like Asian Paints and Berger will buy hundreds of millions of dollars of titanium dioxide from us, and then they will put it in their paints. So you've seen that Saif Ali Khan commercial where you know he's having a party at home and there are a lot of friends, and somebody's splashing wine, and somebody's putting their heel like this on the wall, and then he says, I'm relaxed because my walls are protected with DuPont Teflon. Have you seen that? Yes. Yeah, okay. So to answer your question, that's a long answer, but to answer your question, many times customers directly don't see DuPont because we are several layers behind in the value chain. So we sell to somebody who makes something with it, sells to somebody else who makes something with it, who sells to somebody else, who'll sell you a toothbrush. Right? So there's several examples like that where DuPont products are used as intermediates in hundreds and thousands of industries. Okay, answers your question? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Now, let me get into the core of my talk, okay, which is my experiences of working in the corporate world and what I could share with you. There are 2 or 3 points or themes around which I want to center the discussion, and I want to hear a little bit from you all as well. The first thing I want to talk about is confidence. When I first went and lived in Delhi, I had never lived anywhere other than in Varanasi. So I had visited a few places, but at that time I had not traveled outside the country. I had not lived in a large city ever. I'd been once or twice, but not beyond that. And although I was a good student in my own school, when I first went into an environment like Lady Shri Ram College, which had students from Wellams and the Sindhya School and Maharani Gayatri Devi, and extremely polished young girls, who seemed much more aware of so many different things, and who would listen to the kind of music that I didn't know about, and watch the kind of movies that I didn't know about, and read the kind of books that I didn't know about. It was a, sobering, humbling shock for me. So I want to pause now and see how many of you have lived in cities other than Varanasi, or have the experience of living in a large international city. Give me a show of hands. Where have you lived?
Mumbai.
You lived in Bombay? Okay. For how many years?
Ma'am, 1 year. And 2 years in Delhi.
Okay. And when was that?
2012.
So many years ago. Maybe you were very little at that time?
No, ma'am. I worked in...
This is 2012.
2012.
2001 or 12?
12.
12. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So do you have some work experience already?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anybody else? No. So the first thing I want to share with you as somebody who's grown up in a small town like you all, and has then had the opportunity by the grace of God to travel and work all around the world, I can tell you that it's a difficult process. And it's actually, the adjustment is not very easy. And we often think of ourselves as, very aware and, very with it. But fact of the matter is that you will very quickly realize that there are things that you need to unlearn and things that you need to learn. Yeah? Now, there's some things that are very easily fixed. So the first thing that sort of hits you is you realize I need to have better command over the language. That's the first thing that will sort of hit you. And that's very easily fixed because it's a matter of, you guys speak good English, your grammar is good, it's just a matter of practice and vocabulary. So that's something that you all can very quickly fix with application and hard work. It's in your control. Okay, it's something that you can do. Being aware of what is popular among the youth in those cities, in terms of music or in terms of reading or fashion or style or movies, is also something that you can very quickly catch up with. If you're a bright, aware person, that also doesn't take a long time. Where you may find yourself struggling is social skills. And there, things are not so much in your own control because you've been brought up a certain way. You've been brought up with a certain conditioning, you've been brought up with certain mannerisms, with certain styles of talking, with certain attitudes, with certain behaviors. And those will take a little bit more understanding and awareness before you can deal with those. Why did I start this topic with the word confidence? Because many times, I was speaking to a friend yesterday whose daughter is studying in a large city outside of Varanasi, and she's finding the adjustment a little bit difficult. And the word that her parents used was she's getting complexed. That's the word her parents used. And that's why I'm using the term confidence to say that if you're aware of this, then you will make very quick and very conscious efforts to brush up your social skills in a way that it doesn't impede your interactions with the broader world. What are some of those social skills? Let me give you a few examples. Here we are very used to greeting people a certain way. It's the style of greeting in other cities may be different. The attention to detail that we have here may be a little bit different and on other topics or other things in other cities. Our judgment of what is right or wrong, who we should talk to and who we should not talk to, our mindsets, our prejudices that we've grown up with here may not apply to other cities. So one of the things that I'd urge all of you to think about is that different social skills will be required when you step out of the city to work elsewhere. That's one point. Do you guys want to ask anything about this? Because if not, then I will talk about the second topic. Do you guys want to ask something about social skills, or is what I'm saying clear already?
Ma'am, I ask about some projects which you are done in DuPont company.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can come back to that. Is that okay?
Okay.
So let me go through this part of my my talk, and then we'll come back to DuPont projects. Do you guys have any questions about what I said about developing social skills? Okay. In that case, let me talk about the second thing, which is about respect. You know, the culture that we've been brought up in teaches us to respect people selectively. I'm sorry to say this as a bad thing, but it's true. You know, I work in a company where when I walk in every morning, you know, there's a guard at the reception who stands up and says, "Good morning." And then everybody stops and says, "Hi, how are you this morning?" And he says, "Great." And then I've been in offices where there's a guard at the gate and he stands up every time somebody comes in and nobody looks at that guard. Nobody makes eye contact with him, nobody greets him. They just walk past him as if he's not there. Have you seen that behavior? Have you seen that behavior? Yes. So we've all been brought up in a culture that teaches us to respect people selectively. It's very, very deeply ingrained in us who to respect and who to ignore. In our houses, there will probably be separate classes for some people. Yes? Yes. It's unfortunate, but it's true. It happens in our own houses. So I don't want to get into this whole discussion about the caste system. That's not my intention here. What I'm trying to say to you is that this education system that we're all a part of at this stage is designed to be extremely individualistic. You're all competing with each other for more marks. You're all competing with each other to show I'm more intelligent, you're less intelligent, because you're all chasing the same jobs and you're all chasing the same opportunities and you want to be better than each other. Well, that's a fact, right? So this whole education system is instilling in you, this whole education system is instilling in you a very, very deep sense of individualism, right? This is not something that will take you very far in the corporate world, okay? Because in the corporate world, nobody cares how intelligent you are or how smart you are. That's a given. If you were not smart or were not intelligent, you wouldn't be there. Okay? In the corporate world, people care about only one thing. How well can you work with other people? If you can work well with other people, if you have the ability to work in teams, to collaborate, to listen respectfully, to use the strengths and skills of a very diverse group of people, only then will you be successful. I have very little patience with prima donnas on my team. Do you understand prima donnas? You know, smart people who think they're God's gift to mankind. I have very little patience with them. Because all they're trying to do is show to me or prove to me how smart they are and how foolish everybody else is. And I have no use for them. I'd much rather have simple, average people in my team who can work very well together as a group and produce great results for everybody. So one of the things that you will have to quickly unlearn in the corporate world is the spirit of individuality. I'm not saying competition. I mean, There is competition your entire life. You know, there's competition from the time you're born to the time that you'll die. So I don't see competition as a bad thing. This whole sense of individualism and trying to prove how smart you are and how not so smart everybody else is something that you will have to very quickly unlearn. And why I say this very specifically here is because, you know, I can speak, I'm not speaking as an outsider. I'm speaking to you as somebody who's grown up in Banaras with exactly the same values as all of you. And I can tell you that we tend to be extremely judgmental. We tend to form opinions very quickly about people, and then it's very hard for us to not reflect that in our behavior. And, you know, as somebody who's gone through that, I just want to flag that for you so that you can watch out for it and make sure that your behavior doesn't reflect similar things. Okay? So you will have to work with people who are very different from you, with very different skills, very diverse backgrounds. You know, you won't always, you know, so if you're in a commerce class, everybody in your class is a commerce student. If you're a science student, everybody in your class is a science student. But in a corporate world, it doesn't work like that. In a project team, you will have scientists, and then you will have HR people, and then you'll have finance people, and then you'll have marketing people. And they all think very, very differently. They all think extremely differently. And fact of the matter is that you produce results only when people from diverse backgrounds come together and think together and work together. Yeah, the corporate world doesn't work on individual brilliance. You know, you may think differently because of what you see in the media, because when you think of Reliance, you always see Mukesh Ambani on the TV, and you probably think that he does all the work in his company, but it's not true. So the corporate world doesn't really work on individual brilliance. Yes, you know, good performers are recognized and rewarded and they progress well, and the not so good performers are slowly left behind. But this is not to say that you know, it's competition like this in the corporate world. People have to learn to work together. There will be people who will disagree with you, who, you know, you tell them to do something, they don't report to you directly. They, you know, you have to influence them. You have to make them understand your point of view. And then what do you do if they don't understand? Do you go crying up? Like you go crying up to your teacher saying so-and-so's, you know, stolen my pencil or stolen my pen? No. What do you do? So you have to learn to work with people who are not like you, who don't think like you, who don't work like you, who don't agree with you. You have to learn to work with them. You don't have the choice of cutting them off. You don't have the choice of cutting them off. Okay? So that's one big lesson that you will have to understand. The next point, or let me stop here. Does anybody have questions about this? No? The next point is about hierarchy. So once again, you know, it is in our culture that when we meet somebody, we very quickly want to establish who is higher. Very quickly we want to establish. So, you know, if I'm, and this applies as much to family functions and family meetings as it does to professional meetings or corporate meetings. Our culture is such, and actually in Japan it is even greater. So in Japan, you know, the person who first bows has to be the person who in the hierarchy is lower. Though of course they will both bow. They will both bow. But the Japanese culture and the Korean culture, they are even more hierarchical than ours. But ours is extremely hierarchical. But when you work with other cultures that are a little bit different, like the American culture, or sometimes the African cultures, I mean European cultures, I'd say is a little bit different, a little bit more formal, but not that hierarchical. But this whole recognition of who is higher and how they need to be treated, and many times I see that we sort of go a little bit overboard with a yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. And it may not be the best way to show respect, you know. So sometimes our behavior of demonstration of respect may go a little bit overboard, and at other times it may not be respectful enough. So, so the point I'm making is that different cultures have different sensitivity to hierarchy. They have a different importance attached to hierarchical relationships, and as you go into the corporate world and start working, you will have to be mindful of that. Okay? So when I talk about respect, how I define respect is your ability to see the strength and value in each individual, no matter what their position, no matter what their job, no matter what their role. Okay, because typically in a corporate environment, you know, sometimes the way we treat people back here will not be acceptable. Frankly, as far as I'm concerned, it's not acceptable even here. And I hope that as young people you will do something to change that. Yeah? Okay. Those are some points that I wanted to share with you about soft skills. Are there any more questions or topics that you want me to touch before I get into the innovation part of my discussion? Is there any other topic that you want to hear from me about soft skills? No? So how much time do you think I have? No, but give me about 15 minutes. Okay. Okay, so now I'm getting into the innovation part of my discussion, and he asked me to talk about some of the projects that I've done in DuPont, and I'll surely do that. But before that, I want to link one of the projects that I did in one of my earlier companies. And I want to share what I was saying to you about learning to work with diverse people. So, you know, I was working in a company called Dabur. You've all heard of Dabur, right?
Yes.
So Dabur was at that time a Chyawanprash company. They had Chyawanprash and Pudin Hara and you know, those kind of Damar Hajmola, very good. They also had Vatika hair oil and Amla hair oil. You know, so, yes. So they had those kind of products, but they wanted to move in the foods area, in the foods and beverages area. So they were trying to launch real fruit juice, and so one of the products that I was also trying to launch as part of Dabur Foods was ginger paste and garlic paste. You've all seen it's now available in packets?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, but 25 years ago it was not available in packets. You had to buy ginger and garlic and then go home and peel and then grind. Right? So for the first time in India, we were trying to launch ready-made ginger and garlic paste. And you know, I was in the process of doing market research for that, and every time we would do market research, so do you all understand how market research is done? you go and ask customers, right? You go and ask customers for feedback. Do you like this idea? Will you try it? Will you buy it? So we ask them those kind of questions, right? And every time we were asking customers and they were saying no. We're not going to buy. We like to eat fresh. Fresh is always better. This is old, because it's in a packet, so it will not be fresh, and then it might have preservatives and this and that. So everybody is saying no. So I was sort of getting a little disappointed, and I was very young at that time. I think I was like 24 or 25 or something, and I was sort of saying, I don't want to do this, nobody wants to buy, maybe we should not launch this. So I wasn't really getting a lot of confidence in this product. So we were in a focus group discussion. Do you know what a focus group discussion is? Has any of you read that in your market research? You know about it? What is it? What is a focus group discussion?
On a particular one topic, all the group members are discussing.
That's correct. Very good. Very good. So we were in a focus group discussion with housewives. So there were like about 10 or 12 housewives who were sitting and discussing on this topic, on ginger paste and garlic paste. And I was, as clients, we are not allowed to go in front of the customer, because the research agency is supposed to protect the confidentiality of the client. Because the belief is that if the customer knows that there are people from Dabur here, then they will get influenced, and then they'll start saying everything is good, everything is good. So for that reason, as clients, we are not allowed to go in front of the customers. So the way this works is that the customers are sitting in one room and they are having their discussion, and somebody from the research agency is moderating the discussion. And somebody like this is shooting a video film, and there is CCTV through which you can watch in the next room. That's how it works. So as clients, we are sitting in the next room and watching on TV, and if we have any questions, then we can write on a slip of paper and send it to the moderator, who can then ask the question in the group. That's the way this works. So I was sitting in the other room, and the person who was sitting with me was the food technologist. Now this was a food technologist that I used to not like very much. She and I used to not get along very well together for some reason, Sometimes young people develop some ego hassles or something like that. So I used to not get along very well with her. That's one thing. The other thing is we had very little in common. She'd studied science, and then she wanted to study medicine, but she didn't get admission. So she'd gone and done some microbiology course, and then she'd become a food technologist. So I used to think, she could not even, what is this microbiology? So, when you're young, you sort of form impressions and prejudices, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, but that's how it was. So, and then I used to tell her, what is this rubbish product you've made, nobody wants to buy it. And she, of course, used to think badly about me, look at this high flyer, what does she think she is, just because she's whatever. So there was this dynamic going on. So we were sitting in the other room, and the women here were talking. And anyway, I was a little depressed, because I knew that everybody was saying, no, we don't want to buy, we don't want to buy. Now here's what happens. There's a slightly older woman in the group, about 40 years old. And she says, these working women, they all the time want to dress up and go to office. And then they just want to sit there and do their work, but they don't want to cook. They are so lazy. So this product will work for those working women, because they are so lazy anyway. They don't want to spend time cooking. Whereas I am such a good mother. I only get satisfaction when I cook with my own hands. This is how people talk, right? And imagine like 15 years ago, this is how people talk. I only get satisfaction. I only feed my children what I have made with my own hands, and really the Bharatiya Nari and the. So this went on, and I'm sitting there and saying, oh my God, this is getting worse and worse, and who's going to buy my product? And then there is another lady in the group who agrees with her. Yes, what you are saying is so correct. Actually, and then, so this is what the second woman says. Actually, when I was young, my mother used to do this ginger garlic on the silbatta. That was really the best. And now, in mixie you don't get that taste. So now these women are talking about how, to be like a good wife and a good mother, you should be grinding on silbatta. Okay. And I'm sitting there and saying, this is getting worse and worse. You see where this is going, right? This is getting worse and worse. And then everybody's agreeing in the group, yes. Silbatta is the best. Even in mixie, you don't get the same taste. And here I'm trying to take them to packaged, I'm going in the ulta direction, right? So I'm sitting there feeling very dukhi, and there's this food technologist sitting next to me who's like suddenly excited, she said, Roli. I said, what? And she said, our paste, our plant has stone grinders. So you see what's happening? Our plant, the grinding that's happening in our plant is being done on stone grinders. It's not the mixie blade cutters. So actually what the customers are saying, that when you grind with stone, the flavor is better. She said, actually that's what's happening in our product because it's a stone ground product. So look at this. The whole picture changed. And when we launched with this promise that this is stone ground masala. And it did very well. Now, what is the moral of the story here? As a marketing person, I had no idea what was inside that grinder. I mean, I'd seen my plant and I'd seen the machine, but I had no way of knowing that the grinder was made of stone. But the technologist knew. And if she had not been with me there that day, I would have never discovered how important this was to know. You see the whole point? Yes. It's extremely important to respect people for their abilities that you know and for their abilities that you may not even be aware of. I didn't know her, and frankly, when this research was happening, I did not even want to take her with me. But look what happened. Right? So I hope this sort of gives you an example of one of the projects that I've worked on, though not in DuPont. But just to make the point that new launches and new ideas are painful to do and tricky business and very frustrating business in the beginning. But later when they become successful, it's very satisfying. So let me give you another example of a project that we did in DuPont. This is interesting. We actually aborted this project. We didn't take it beyond a point. But are you all vegetarians? Show of hands. Vegetarians? Okay, so I'm a vegetarian, and I have been a vegetarian now for about 24 years. I've been a vegetarian now for about 24 years, and a very, very committed vegetarian, So no matter where I travel in the world, I am a vegetarian. So one of the projects that I was working on was to launch a liner. You know what a liner is? It's like a large plastic sheet, like as big as this room. a large plastic sheet, and it was a DuPont specialty plastic sheet, which means that it was an extremely strong sheet that had some mechanical strength properties, and it would not puncture under a certain pressure, and it would not tear under a certain, so it had a certain tear resistance and had a certain puncture resistance and had a certain ability to not degrade when left out in the sun. You know what happens when you leave something out in the sun, right? It UV degrades and loses its mechanical strength. So this sheet was a specialized sheet that was used to line canals and used to line, when you make dams, you have to make them waterproof, and when you make canals, you have to make sure that the water is not seeping through. So we had these liners that were used for it, and one of the things that we were trying to do was to take this liner and sell it into the aquaculture industry. Do you know what the aquaculture industry is? So this is like agriculture, where instead of like farms on land, you've got shrimp farm. So you've got large farms, like one farm will be like a hectare, and then there will be like 30 farms like that next to each other, so 30 hectares or 40 hectares or 100 hectares of just large farms full of shrimp. So this is a very large industry in Thailand. Thailand is the world's largest exporter of shrimp. And also in other ASEAN countries like Vietnam and Malaysia and Indonesia, the aquaculture industry is very big, but it's the biggest in Thailand. So I had the job of bringing liners to the aquaculture industry. And that was a very, very interesting project for me, an extremely interesting one. I mean, as a vegetarian, it was not very easy for me to, to look at the shrimp and understand how they would interact with the liner, and, why you need a liner in the first place. And so that was one very interesting project for me, and if some of you are interested, we can talk later about some of the interesting aspects of it. Okay, what are some of the challenges as we do innovation? I think you guys are a little young, and you need a little bit of work experience to start understanding the complications and challenges of innovation, because it's frankly one of, there's a term we use called holy grail, it's something that everybody tries to do very well. Now what happens is that when you have a large sales and marketing organization, the sales force is very happy with a bestseller product. They're very happy to have a product that is selling very well, and they know that they have a market for it, and they know how to sell it, they're accustomed to it, they've memorized the selling story, and they don't have to do very hard work, So within the organization, the sales force sometimes puts up the biggest resistance to change, the biggest resistance to a new launch. I mean, you see that in Banaras all the time, right? You try to change something and you see the resistance. Right? It's in our culture to resist change. And it's one of the fundamental challenges with innovation, the resistance to change. So I'll leave that here, because we'll probably have this discussion when you guys have had about 4 or 5 years of work behind you. And then, maybe it'll be more meaningful. And now I want to finally talk to you a little bit about my book. So, as a hobby, I write. And my new book is out. It's called Banaras, A Journey Within. It's a book that captures my own memories and my own impressions of the city when I used to live here. So it's the impressions of a student who was here, and it's about my family that was here at that time, my grandparents, and all the different influences in my life, about my school teachers and my friends. And what I'm hoping to do is that I'm hoping to talk to students in the city and encourage them to understand what a unique city they live in. You know, there are very few cities in the world that are so distinguished by a unique culture or a unique spirit or a unique ethos. There are very few cities in the world. For example, when we say London, the first picture that comes to your mind is the Queen, right? The monarchy, the Princess Diana. And that's so different about London. You won't get that in any other city in the world. And that's what distinguishes that city. Or when you think of Paris, what do you think of? Well, yes, the Eiffel Tower for sure, but what do you think of? You think of fashion and style. Well, it's known as the city of romance. So it's really a very, very stylish city. And when you think of Singapore, if you've spoken to people who've been to Singapore, what do they tell you? How clean it is, and how you cannot cross the road anywhere, and how you cannot throw things anywhere, and that city is all about discipline. Right? So this was discipline. So even inanimate banners will protest in Banaras if you talk about discipline. So as I was saying, you know, Singapore is all about discipline. I could give you more examples, but the point I'm making is that, you know, for example, when you talk about Bombay, they talk about the resilient spirit of Bombay. You know, when there's a tsunami, and then they say, okay, but, you know, Mumbaikars will survive. They will fight it out. And they did. And then there was the terrorist attacks, you know, the 26/11. And then also everybody said, oh, but the Mumbaikars will not be scared. And the next day they will go to the office. And they did. And, you know, in '93, I think you guys were very, very young, but when there were the communal riots after the fall of the Babri Masjid, and everybody said, when there were the blasts, you know, there were like 13 serial blasts, and everybody said, oh, the Bombayites won't be scared, and they'll go to office tomorrow, and they did. So we talk about Bombay as a city that will not be scared, a city that will go on, you know, like the resilient spirit of Mumbai, we say, right? So that way, if there are very few cities in the world, but there are those cities that are recognized by a unique spirit. And the point that I'm making is that Banaras is one such city. And you, when you step out into the world, into the corporate world, you will all step out not just representing yourselves as individuals, but you will represent your parents, you will represent your teachers who have taught you, you will represent your families, and you will also represent your city. You will also represent the city where you come from, because when people meet with you, on the basis of that interaction, they will form impressions about your city. Right? So my intention in meeting young people such as you and talking to you about this book is because I'd like you to know a little bit more about this great city that you live in, and appreciate it and protect it and work to improve it. You know, we can't always wait for the government to do everything. So for example, let me quickly do a test. If you're standing on the ghats of Banaras and your back is to the ghats, and your face is towards that vast expanse of sand on the other side. You all understood? Which direction are you looking at?
East.
Very good. So what is the direction in which the river is flowing? So do you know that this is the only city, the only place where the Ganges flows north? Do you know that?
Yes, ma'am.
You know that, right? So this is the only city where the Ganga flows ulta. It's like this, they say ulti Ganga behti hai, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And for example, you know, the food of the city, it's amazing that in this day and age where you can eat, like I can eat Mexican and Chinese and Japanese and Lebanese food in Delhi, but if I wanted to eat Banarsi food in Delhi, it's still not there. You know, food from Banaras really hasn't traveled. So a lot of people don't know about, you know, some of our specialty food items, or, you know, the unique culture that we have, the role of some of the, you know, the Brahmins in our society, or, I mean, there are so many different aspects to the cultural life in Banaras that a lot of people living here themselves may not be aware of. So I'd like all of you to take some time to get to know the city that you're all living in. And as you step out into the world, you know, carry a little bit of the city with you, and be ambassadors and representatives of the city, and give a good impression of it. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
Good. So with that, I stop, and I'm happy to take more questions. Do you guys have more questions? Or you want to ask me later? Okay. So here are some copies. If you want, you could get them. And then I'll be around, so if you want that I should sign your copy for you, I'll be happy to do that also. Thank you very much.
Does this meet your expectations?
Thank you, madam, for your valuable inputs pertaining to the corporate world across the globe, innovations, and the practices which you are supposed to inculcate in yourself when you are approaching toward corporate from the campus. Before we conclude, following the culture of SMS, I would request our director sir to kindly present a memento as a part of our love and affection to Madam Jindal. Thank you, sir. And before concluding the session, I would request Dr. Singh, sir, to kindly present his vote of thanks for ending the session. Sir.
Good afternoon, friends. We all are from SMS family. Grateful to Madam for giving her precious time over here in her busy schedule. We have learned in our school days about one theory of Charles Darwin, survival of the fittest. In a nutshell, whatever Madam has given here, I would like to say, this is the thing which you need to cultivate. We all us need to cultivate for the survival. Because adaptability is one thing. We are from one culture, we are continuously adopting new cultures and cultures and cultures and cultures. And finally, when you reach on that position, you see a great personality like Madam. Actually, what happened? How will you do that? That is also given, the solution was given by madam. And which I try to understand is only one thing. You need to be simple, as madam is. Very simple. You can very well understand she is on such a higher position, but you are saying the simplicity. हम लोग तो थोड़ा बहुत में भी, you know, because when you are simple, you become flexible, and when you become flexible, it is very easy for you to adapt yourself according to the situation. So there are n number of things. Madam has, you know, in very short span touched every dimension. I was having discussion with madam day before yesterday. तो मैंने कहा मैं आपको क्या बताऊँ, आपके पास इतना अनुभव है. But whatever time is there, try to incorporate those things regarding the DuPont, you know, value chain. A lot of things you have understood. And this is the first company, you know, friends, when I was doing my MBA from my first BHU 25 years back, the first company I heard about the DuPont. So at that time, my question was same as your question. ये करती क्या है? But now we are realizing that in that value chain, it is having a very significant role. Madam ने बहुत अच्छा बताया ना, वो brush करते हैं, DuPont, हाँ? But we don't know exactly. आज आपके वजह से हम लोग जान नहीं पा रहे हैं चीज़ों को. तो we need to analyze this thing, research the things. And regarding the innovations, you know how simply Madam has given the example of that ginger paste. Homemade was the brand, I think.
That's correct.
Actually, I was also associated with the Ayurvedic pharmaceuticals, and I've done a lot of things on that one. So I've learned that case of the homemade that was launched in front of me. So homemade was an excellent example. Example of not only the innovation, but what Madam has said about, you know, what do you think about the class differentiation? ये फीडबैक मैडम को उस 40 साल की जो बुढ़िया थी उससे मिला कि ये तो वर्किंग वुमन वाला प्रोडक्ट है ना? And that idea has given you कि सिलबट्टा is also important. So that सिलबट्टा creates a notion it's a traditional product, but at the same time the innovation is there. It's a packaged product. You can just take it, use it, and enjoy it. So yes, these are very complicated things which seems to be, but very easily it has been delivered to you. And this is what the beauty of the simplicity. So friends, it is our fortune that Madam is here. और एक चीज और जो मैं बताना चाहता हूँ, which I always used to say in the classrooms also, कि always be connected with your roots. Problem यही होता है. When you reach on top position, we started criticizing Banaras. This is the first thing. And if you are apart from your root, you just isolated from your roots, you will be finished. So the book which was written by Madam, I think day before yesterday I got that book and I have quickly gone through that. And she has touched several things. है ना? Those who are in touch with my Facebook friends, मैं भी मलइयों के बारे में डालता हूँ. आप लोग enjoy करते हैं उसको. And Madam has mentioned about the Malayo there. So these are the basic USP of Banaras. So if you don't know Banaras, you are born in Banaras, brought up in Banaras, or you are nearby Banaras, studying in Banaras, तो फिर तो बनारसी कह नहीं सकते ना अपने. हम अमेरिकन कहना ज़्यादा पसंद करते हैं. बनारसी कहने में थोड़ी सी शर्म है. So we should be proud of what we are, our institution, our city, our people, our culture, our value system, and this will make you a complete man. So thank you very much for giving all these inputs to you, and we hope आप लोग चाहेंगे ना कि मैडम दोबारा भी आए हैं? Yes, sir. Okay. So with these words, thank you very much.
Thank you.